morning. We're going to start today doing Chapter 2, Section 1 in the Business Math book. You've got a set of class notes. I would encourage you to take those blank notes and follow along with us. And if you've got a calculator, get it out. We're going to be using it. If you'll notice there on the top of the first page of class notes, does everyone have their class notes with them? That it says this material should be review. We're going to be talking about percents and interpreting percents. To be in this class, you should have either placed in this class through an assessment test or through taking fundamentals of math. So most of this in this first couple of sections should be review material. We're going to talk about interpreting percents to begin with. When analyzing or interpreting percents in a problem, you need to consider the following. What is the base? The base is oftentimes the original amount, the total, the beginning place, the starting point, the whole. We want to know what the percent refers to and how the percent relates to an actual application. We've got an example here that says, with 68% reporting, Davis leads Smith 57% to 43%. Lots of percents there. What do they mean? What does the 68% of the precinct's reporting mean? Karen, do you have an idea?
It means out of 100% of the precincts, only 68 have reported.
Does it mean there's only 100 precincts?
100 precincts? No.
No. It means 68 out of every 100 precincts. Thank you. That was very nice. I appreciate you cooperating. 68 out of every 100 precincts that exist are reporting. So how many would not be reporting at this point?
32.
32. Thank you. That's right. Okay, the next 2% say Davis leads Smith 57 to 43%. What does the 57% reporting mean, or the 57%? Ingrid, do you have an idea? I didn't mean to pick on you. Does someone have an idea what the 57% to 43 means? Who's winning? Yes.
Davis would be leading Smith by 57%, meaning that of the 68 precincts that have reported all of those votes, Davis has 57% of them.
Thank you.
Smith
That's right.
43.
And Davis is winning because he has the larger percentage. Is anyone else running in this election? And how would we know?
Somebody is, yeah.
What do those numbers add up to?
100%.
100%. So no one else is getting any votes.
Right.
So no one else is running.
Oh.
The percentages don't always have to add up to 100. There could have been someone else running. Great. Let's look at the next example. A 7.75% interest rate on a home loan with a 10% down payment. What does a 10% down payment mean? You go and buy a house.
And put us through the cost.
10% of the purchase price of the house was paid down, and you're financing what percent?
90.
90%. Good. So you're financing 90%. And talk to me about what that 7.75 interest rate means.
Interest per year.
Interest per year.
Per month,
Per year. I like that.
Mostly per
And
year,
what does
yeah.
it mean? 7.75 of what?
the percentage rate of whatever the cost of the house is, basically.
The financed
Balance.
amount.
Yeah,
Right.
the
The base
financed amount.
of that one is the financed amount of the house. Good. One more and then we'll move on. Healthcare premiums will rise 22% next year. What would the base be? If healthcare premiums are rising 22%, 22% based on what?
What they are this year.
What they are this year, the original amount. Very good. The starting point is this year. Nice. If you look there, it says homework is 2.1 on page 36, number 1 through 15 odds. The answers to the odd problems are given in the back of the book. Make sure that you show your work in homework cases to get credit. You're going to be doing these problems, turning them in on test day, so you'll just need to be starting a notebook, and the answers to those questions will be in the back of the book. We will start each class answering any homework questions that you have. Okay? All right? Our goal is to complete 2.1 and 2.2 today. So we're going to go ahead and start 2-2. 2-1 was a very short lesson, and all you're going to be doing in those homework problems is saying what is the base and interpreting the problems much like we did it today. Just kind of giving me an explanation of what the numbers mean to you. Okay? I'm going to move this up. Percent conversions. Someone said earlier, percent means parts out of 100. In 2.2, we're going to be converting percents to decimals and fractions to decimals, decimals to fractions, decimals to percents. We're going to be doing all those things. We're going to start by converting from percents to decimals. When we convert from a percent to a decimal, we move the decimal place 2 points to the left, or we multiply by 0.01 if we want to put that in our calculator. We've got some percent examples here that we want to convert, and we drop the percent sign. Yes? Okay. So if I've got 25%, where's the decimal right now at 25%? After the 5. Very good. So if I were to change 25% to a decimal, I drop the percent sign. I realize the decimal is after the 5. I'm going to the left. What do we get as an answer? 0.25. Very good. All right, let's go on down to 62.5%. We know where the decimal is there, right? Tell me, what do we get when we take 62.5% and convert it to a decimal? 0.625. Okay. 160%. 1.6 or 1.60. It doesn't matter whether you leave that 0 in the hundredths column or not. The last one on this page is 1/4%. I think it helps in this one to convert it to a decimal first. Does anyone know what the decimal equivalent to 1/4 is? 0.25. 1/4% is really the same as 0.25%. Is that a very large number or a very small number? Small. Less than 1 out of 100, right? Yes. Okay. So we're going to change that to 0.25%, and we drop the percent sign. We move the decimal 2 places to the left, and we get 0.0025. Is that all right with everyone? Super.
Which one was 0025?
The very last one, 1/4%, bottom of the page. Do you have a pencil?
Yes.
Okay, did you change that to 0.25%?
No.
It's 0.25%. 1/4 is very small.
Okay.
It's 0.25%. Now drop the percent sign and move the decimal.
This place.
It's 0.0025 as a decimal. It's a very small number, less than 1 out of 100. Top of the next page. We're going to now convert from a percent to a fraction. In doing that, we need to remember that percent means parts out of 100. And we're going to change these to fractions, and I need to add reduce. Okay? So 8% means 8 out of 100. So we're going to write it as 8 with a fraction bar and then 100. Is that all right? And that needs to be reduced. 8 over 100 reduces to what number? 2/25. 65%. Change that to a fraction. First, we need to write it as a fraction, 65 over 100. And that reduces. 5 will go both into 65 and 100. We end up with 13/20. Questions about percent to fractions? Okay. We're going to convert from a decimal to a percent in problem 3 then, example 3. We're going to move the decimal point 2 places to the right, and there's a misprint there. It needs to say or multiply by 100. I've got 0.65 or 65 hundredths as a decimal. I need to move the decimal 2 places to the right and add a percent sign. It's going to be 65%. 1.35 as a decimal. Move the decimal 2 places to the right, and I end up with what? 135%. What does 135% mean? Can I fill a glass 135% full? No, it means more than a whole. So there are some things that can't happen with 135%, right? But I could go shopping and have money allocated and spend 135% of my budget. I'd be right. Right, okay. So the meaning of a very large decimal, one that is over 100, means more than the whole. Okay. Tiny number, 0.0004, that would be 4. Does anyone know how we read that one?
4%.
How do we read it as a decimal first? You're right.
Oh, 4 10,000.
4 10,000ths, right. Very small number. And what did you tell me that was as a percent?
0.04%.
0.04%. Means 0.04 out of 100. Very small number. Okay. Convert from a fraction to a percent. We're going to change the fraction itself to a decimal to begin with, then move the decimal point 2 places to the right. How do I change 5 3/5 to a decimal?
Multiply the denominator into. I don't know, I guess.
That was a good idea. You were going to come up with an improper fraction. He was saying take 5 times 5, give me 25 and add 3. That would give me 28/5, and that would give me an improper fraction. If I had an improper fraction, how would I change it?
Divided.
That's right. That would be exactly right. You take 28 and divide it by 5. Who's got a calculator?
0.6.
5.6.
You just add 5 to 3 and divide it by 5 either way.
Right. You saw another way of converting it. He saw that 5 was the whole number, and he converted 3/5 to a decimal. And how'd you do that?
5 plus 3. And then divide your total by 5.
Great. So are there questions about how you would convert 5 3/5 to a decimal?
What was the final answer?
Well, we're not there yet, but we're going to get there. As a decimal, it's 5.6. So what would that be as a percent? And what does it mean when we get that percent? How many?
560.
560%. I always call that the teenage party. You invite 100 people, and how many people showed up? What does 560% mean? You had a party, you invited 100 people. How many people showed up?
500.
560. Percents that are larger than 100. That's exactly what they mean. More than the original amount. So 560% would be you anticipated 100, and 560 is what happened. So that would be 560%. What about 11/8?
Same concept.
Same concept, exactly. It's already an improper fraction. The first one was a mixed number. This is an improper fraction. Right. So I'm going to take 11 and divide it by 8. So you can see we need a calculator every day, right? Because you're going to be working along with me every day. So what decimal do I get when I take 11 and divide it by 8?
1.375.
1.375, but that's a decimal. So now I want to go to a percent. How do I go to a percent? Move it to the right, so I get 137.5%. Another one of these that's greater than 100%. I'm going to give you an idea that I guess I remember how to go left or right when I'm converting from decimals to percents and from percents to decimals, okay? If you were in elementary school, I bet above the teacher's chalkboard there was the alphabet, and it went A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Yes? And if you were thinking about that, which hand would the D be by, left or right? Which hand would the P be by? You with me? The D would be by your left hand. The P would be by your right hand. If you have a decimal and you want to convert to a percent, you're at the D. You go 2 places to the P. You go from left to right. If you have a percent and you want to go to a decimal, do you see what I'm seeing, Quincy? Yes? If I'm at the P and I want to go to the D, do it the direction that the alphabet tells you. Because I think people always know it's 2 places and they can't remember, am I going left or am I going right? If I'm at the D decimal, I would go right to P. If I was at P, I would go left to D. So that goes 2 places, left or right, depending on alphabetically how that's working. So if that confuses you, that's how I remember it, left and right because of decimal and percent. Questions about 2-2? We are going to then do the homework on page 41, 1 through 27 odd. You're welcome to use a calculator. I believe in being calculator competent, so bring whatever calculator that you choose to use to class, and we will actually be helping you use your calculator in class. Make sure that you're, however, buying the BA35, which is a business calculator for the financial portion of this after spring break. I think that's all we need to do for right now in this section. And we can stop and do the pretest if that's okay with